Hey guys, this is a real brief guide to our Iron Quan fight. Basically the setup we had is we had two range groups, one melee group. What you want to do is assign markers for the raid stacking point and then two markers for ranged stacking points. It's basically a 4-phase fight. First 3 phases you're fighting the boss on a mount, last phase is just the boss on his own. What you need to do right from the start, as soon as you pull, is have your melee group, which consists of 3 melee or 2 melee and a tank, whichever works out, stack up on one point. When 3 players stack together, they get a fiery buff every now and again. Basically what you want to do is get each group to get 3 stacks of the buff. As soon as the group has got 3 stacks, that group spreads out, and then one of the range groups then stacks up. The group which is stacked together with 3 players is the group that gets the fire buff. So initially the melee starts stacked up to ensure that they get the buff. As soon as they've got 3 buffs, they call out. They start spreading then, and then one of the range groups stacks up, takes 3. After they've got 3, they spread out, and then the last group stack up. Due to the boss's health in this attempt, we choose to just take 1 fire buff on the last 3rd group, and then we just burn the boss down. Basically, if the boss doesn't have a group stacked of 3, he can't cast his fire ability. If he can't do that, his rage bar grows, and if his rage bar ever gets to full, then he just does some insane damage. So that's the reason why you have to stack up, to allow his rage bar to always be depleted by using his abilities. What you'll see throughout the first 3 phases, he throws a spear at a random raid member. In phase 1 it's a fire spear, which, as you can see on the floor, produces these fly trails. Phase 2, it's wind one, I think it is. The other thing he'll do in phase 2, which you'll see shortly, he'll do an ability on various raid members, something called lightning struck, or yeah, that you can see is cast on Fem, lightning storm, just to the right. All you need to do is go over to that person and right click them, and that will break the stun. So you can see another spear's been thrown down. We get this ability now called Windstorm. What I tend to do is pre-spirit shell the whole raid. If you've got a warlock, it's fantastic for this. Put their gateway up, and then healers, tanks, or anyone who's not particularly great at dodging whirlwinds can just use the warlock portal. Everyone else just run through. Obviously mages can blink. Anyone who's got movement boosting abilities can use those. You'll typically get 2 of those at the start, I would imagine, while you're learning the fight, until DPS is high enough, in which case then you'll pretty much get 1, and then the boss will be down. So yeah, this is the 2nd phase still. We take this one down, so we'll just keep DPSing this for a short while. Again, you're still going to be getting the stuns in this phase, so just have people call out, or always try and make sure you're standing quite close to someone else who can come along and right click you to break the stun. As you can see there, the next windstorm 21 seconds away. That would have dragged us back to the warlock portal again, and we would have had to have either ported or ran back to this position again. I think we pretty much beat it before it happens, so that's pretty cool. So phase 3, in this phase it's all about staying spread out. What you'll see is everyone's got arcing lightning debuff on them at the moment, or quite a few people will. In this phase you have to stay spread out so that drops off. Anyone who has the debuff that goes near another player, it will basically spread that buff onto that player. So the key is, priority for this is just to stay spread as much as you can until everyone's dropped this debuff. It does a bit of AoE damage, and the reason you have to have dropped it is because in the last phase everyone stacks up together. It's quite hitting intense in the last phase as it is, and with this dot going around the whole raid, it just makes it really hard. So priority is just staying spread out initially at the start of this phase. As soon as everyone's dropped their debuff, you can then worry about more positioning for better DPS, or starting to get a bit closer to each other. So you can see we've just got 1 more person, and now we've completely dropped the buff there. So we'll just carry on DPSing the boss. You can probably see he's got shield abilities where he'll cast 2 shields, which will basically block any incoming damage that he takes from those areas. So for maximum DPS there, you want to try and make sure that you always position yourself if you can, so that the shields are never facing you. So we'll just carry on DPSing this guy down for a bit. Again, the spear, quite an annoying thing. This one, it's a frost one. If you get hit by it, you probably saw earlier on when I got touched by it once. It leaves a debuff which reduces your cast speed. So typically always try and avoid running over the beams in all phases. The fire one will just give you a stacking fire debuff which increases fire damage taken. But this one particularly nasty, the frost one, will reduce your cast speed. So boss is dead now. Obviously everyone's dropped the debuff, so everyone now starts to focus on stacking up together. We typically tend to try and wait for that any patches on the floor to move before we stack up too heavily. This phase is literally just about healing through the fist smash ability that he does. So yeah, we tend to rotate cooldowns, Spirit Shell, Tranquility Barrier. Shamans have got some nice healing Tide Totem or some crap like that. It's not particularly that intense. Obviously the longer the fight goes on, the harder it becomes. But typically with decent DPS, you probably only have maybe 5 of these smashes or something to have to deal with. So just popping cooldowns for each one, keeping the raid topped in between. Nothing else to worry about on this phase apart from that, really. As you'll see, also tanks suffering various debuffs throughout this fight. I think we typically taunt on 4 or 5 stacks, but it just depends on how geared your tanks are. You can probably figure that out yourselves. Typically we 2 heal this, in fact we always do heal this. Having 1 more DPS just gets the fight out of the way much quicker. So just judge it on how decent your healing is. If you can 2 heal it, it's a much quicker fight. I think when we started training it we did 3 heal, but gear now means we can easily 2 heal this. So yeah, just heal through the rest of the fight there till the end. Nothing particularly hard. And that's it.